Welcome to your next video lecture. This time we'll be looking at the people of the sun, the Aztecs. Remember to take notes. You'll be taking a Kahoot quiz in class. The Aztec people were originally from northern Mexico. However, according to legend, in 1168, the Aztec god commanded that they move south and look for an eagle on a cactus. When they found this symbol, they should settle there and build a great city. So for 150 years, they traveled, and in 1325 arrived in the Valley of Mexico. It had wide plains, fertile land, lots of water, and a mild climate. Here, they found the eagle on a cactus in an unoccupied, swampy island. They named their new home Tenochtitlan. According to Aztec philosophers, the earth was a round, flat disk, with Tenochtitlan in the middle. The city itself was divided into four, with many temples inside shaped like pyramids, with the idea that greater height brought you closer to God. In the center of the city, there was the largest temple, and therefore the physical and spiritual center of the entire universe. Mountains were thought to be holy sites, again with the same idea as the pyramids. The higher you were, the closer you were to the gods. They also provided security for the people should it ever flood. However, droughts were much more common. Therefore, the Aztecs modified their environment by building aqueducts, which were channels used to bring fresh water into the city. The Aztecs also built chinampas, which were like floating islands around the water of the island. Reed mats were held in place by stakes pounded into the ground beneath the water, and dirt was piled on top. In doing so, the Aztecs were able to expand their land to grow crops. The Aztecs were polytheists, poly meaning many, theos meaning belief in God. Therefore, the Aztecs believed in many gods. However, some were more important than others. Huitzilopochtli was the god that initially encouraged the Aztecs to leave their homeland and look for the eagle on the cactus. Like many Aztec gods, this god needed blood sacrifices, often from those who were captured by the Aztecs in war. Without human sacrifice, the god would die and would bring the end of the world. Tezcatlipoca is often said to be the most powerful god of the Aztecs. This god would see the future. He was called the Lord of the Night Sky and was often fighting with Huitzilopochtli. Quetzalcoatl is the god of wind and is portrayed as a feathered serpent. This god left after a fight with Tezcatlipoca and is prophesied to return, bringing the destruction of the Aztec people. Tlaloc was the god of rain, and therefore could unleash floods or cause drought, and therefore was feared because he controlled the Aztec survival. It is for these reasons that pleasing the gods was very important to the Aztecs. This belief system is also reflected in the Aztec calendars, which emphasize the connection between people and gods. In fact, they had two calendars, sacred and solar. The sacred calendar was 260 days long and took 52 years to mesh with the solar. In addition, the Aztecs believed 4 eras existed before the present, and that the current would be destroyed by earthquakes. The Aztecs formed trading and defensive alliances with other communities. They needed trade for tropical fruits such as avocados, papayas, and cocoa. However, the Aztecs also believed that it was their job to conquer all people in the universe, and therefore, while traders were a valued role, so were warriors. In fact, military service was compulsory for boys after the age of 15. After warriors conquered a neighboring group, they demanded tribute from them in the form of valuable goods such as cocoa beans, which were used as currency. Therefore, traders and warriors were extremely linked, and it was believed that what was best for the group was more important than what was important for the individual. The Aztec social hierarchy had 2 main classes, the nobles and the commoners. Your class was determined by birth, however, you could work into a higher class. Moving up in status could be achieved on the battlefield. Once 4 enemies were captured, a warrior could move up in social status. This structure was very unique in North America at the time. Most First Nations, for example, had no hierarchy at all. The emperor, or the great speaker, was the top of the hierarchy. His name was Moctezuma. The Aztecs knew he was human, but they treated him like a god and obeyed him without question. He was the commander of the army, the head of the government, and the chief priest, so they really couldn't. From there, society was organized into family clans or groups called kalpali. Members of the same kalpali lived in the same area and used the same temple. Some were based on family, and others what they did for a living, such as goldsmiths or feather workers. Of all the kalpali, the merchants were the richest in Tenochtitlan. They went on trading expeditions and brought back trade goods. The farmer and artisan kalpali helped keep up with the constant demand for finer things, fashionable cloths or works of art. Of them, the mask makers, goldsmiths, and feather workers were among the most well-respected. This was because the Aztecs would display their wealth by clothing, jewelry, and location of their house. Again, a huge difference from the First Nations peoples who frowned on such displays of wealth. The Aztec children began school around 10 to 15 years old. All children were pampered until about age 3, and then they were expected to work and obey. All schooling was free, and everyone went to school. However, what school you went to was based on your class. The Kalmakak was for nobles, and here the children studied to learn about society and religion. Education for nobles was based on the ability to read and write. Commoner children attending the Telpo Kali did not need reading or writing. They were taught orally about history, religion, and most importantly, their citizenship duties. School included a lot of physical labor, in addition to being taught the family trade at home. While all girls went to school, most finished by the age of 16, when they moved in with their husband. They had little political power. However, they were the doctors, healers, and priestesses, matchmakers, and midwives of the community, and therefore were well respected. The Aztecs had a system of written laws which all citizens had to obey. Nobles were judged more harshly than commoners for disobeying the laws, and the judges could hand down rulings such as fines, slavery, or death. There were no prisons. Slavery for the Aztecs was not necessarily considered shameful. There were laws protecting their rights. For example, if a noble was found beating a slave, the noble would be executed. In addition, slavery was always a temporary condition. Children born to slaves were not slaves themselves. And slaves could own property and their own slaves. And if they escaped and ran to the emperor's palace, they would win their freedom. Much of Aztec life was based on the ideas of good citizenship. Specifically, the Aztec virtues of an ideal citizen, which included courage, self-sacrifice, modesty, clean living, and obedience.